What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we got to talk about balancing a little bit because as you guys know, the balance patch notes should be coming pretty soon, and I just want to talk about some units that we might see in the balance patch that I would like to see in the balance patch. Now, this time, it's a little bit different, okay? Usually, I have an expectation, right, of what we can see in the balance patch. But this time, I really have almost no expectations for the balance patch. There are some units that we talk about all the time and that we have been talking about for months, years now, to be honest, and that never really get a change, and that's probably the main reasoning why I don't really have expectations. You know, usually there would be, you know, I expect to see that something, but now like I only have ideas what should get changed, but not real expectations. You know, it is hard for me to predict what Comtos is gonna do nowadays. It's just, it feels really random. The balance patches really feel super random. They usually hit maybe one or two things that people talk about, and then the rest is fully just random. You know, so let's start with the fire units, okay? I'm gonna be picking a couple units from each element and just talking about them. The most important stuff, right? When it comes to fire units, the first unit I think about is Juno, right now. Now, you guys know Comtos had a attempt to nerf oracles, and some of them were good, some of them were horrible. Juno was the horrible one. The Praha one was really good. The Sierra one, I think, was also pretty good. Gianna Lima, it was pretty good. But the way they tackled Juno was super weird and super undeserving, I think. Where they decided to nerf her, but while trying to nerf her, they buffed her much more than, you know, they made her much better than she was before. So I don't understand how they thought, like, okay, we're nerfing Gianna and Lima, and we're not giving anything to Gianna Lima, right? Because that's normal, that's what we should do. And then Juno, who's like the same strength and now even stronger than Gianna and Lima both, in my opinion, they decided to buff her. So they gave her the 2-turn speed buff with no cooldown every time you put a debuff on her, and it made her just much better than she was before, and it ended up being a huge buff to Juno, right? So Juno is definitely one of the most important units right now that I think needs to be addressed. I don't understand why it had to be added. Juno was already a great unit. The reason why they wanted to nerf Juno was because she was too strong, right? That is the whole point of nerfing Juno's skill 1. But then to turn it into a buff, that's like crazy. Yeah, that's insane. So Juno definitely #1, I think, from fire units at the moment that needs a nerf. Of course, Masha is still in the conversation, but I feel like people overlook Masha nowadays because there's just not enough talk, you know? But I feel like Juno is the main one when it comes to fire units. They buff Vanessa. Vanessa's not pretty cool. When it comes to nerfs, I don't know if it's even if there's even any point talking about Douglas and how impactful Douglas is. A lot of people are going to say, oh well, you can counter Douglas. It's not really about that, right? It's not really about you being able to counter Douglas. Douglas is a counter pick, right? Douglas should be a counter pick for something, right? But the way Douglas exists in the game is that what it does is it makes you have to adjust your whole draft according to Douglas, right? There are too many 4-span units in Summoner's War. So you having to adjust your whole draft to one unit while not even thinking about other units that you have to adjust your draft to is pretty crazy, right? If you don't draft from the start with units that counter Douglas, you will get Douglas at the end, right? And then you have to ban him. But what if you have to ban other stuff too? Well, you can't ban more than one unit, right? It's just pretty annoying that he just literally curates drafts, you know? He will literally dictate how a draft will go. Same thing with Leo, kinda. Leo's a little bit stronger in that sense, but it is a very similar thing, right? You know, Leo's more consistent at what he does, of course, but they are both very similar, where you cannot do things if they exist, right? So I would definitely say Douglas is a big problem, even though you can counter him. You know, it's not a problem to really counter him, but you cannot get limited by one unit at what you want to do, you know? One unit should not be able to limit your whole draft. Again, it's supposed to be a counter pick, not something that just fully like limits you from doing things. So I don't think there's a really good way to nerf Douglas. I think it's just a bad monster design. The only way to nerf him is to completely remove the passive and make a different passive. That's a thing that they could do. Just rework the passive completely. I don't know if I said it about Juno, but yeah, for Juno, I think speed buff just needs to go. I don't think it was necessary. I think if they just nerfed Juno, if they just nerfed the attack bar and didn't add anything to Juno, Juno would still be a great, fantastic unit. You know, that was the whole point of the skill 1 nerf, but yeah. They would need to remove the speed buff to make her balanced. And the fire units, that's kind of it. I'm mostly gonna be talking about nerfs, because this is just... The game problem right now is that we have too many overpowered units, right? So I think we need to focus on nerfs way more. When it comes to buffs, a lot more units will get more usable once the OP units are balanced, right? So I think there's a lot of units also that need buffs, but you would see how the meta would become much more open to a lot of other units, you know? If the OP stuff got to a more balanced level, you know? And fire, that's kind of it, honestly. Water. Well, there are some units here. First of all, Shizuka. You guys know I've been using her a lot lately. I always said she was OP, and now that I started using her, yeah, I definitely think even more that she's absolutely OP. And it's just, there's no debate, you know, that she's literally just one of the best units in the game still, even after the nerf. What I would nerf with her, I would put a 1-turn buff instead of 2. That's my best suggestion for Shizuka. It's just a over the top unit. It doesn't really deserve, one unit doesn't deserve to do all that with one skill, you know. And on top of that, this is a pretty strong skill as well, and skill 1 is nice as well, of course. Yeah, Shizuka definitely needs to be cut down a little bit more. It's kind of funny though, pre-buff Shizuka was a fantastic unit. Like, back when she got released, she was a fantastic unit. But no one used her. Because we have this problem in Summoner's War community where people don't want to use units unless the units are absolutely over the top. You know? No one wants to really try stuff if it's not OP. You know, and I feel like that also kind of pushes Comptos to buff them. You know, because if you see a unit not being used at all, they probably think, oh wow, this is not used at all, it must suck. Because Comptos, honestly, doesn't really do any testing, so they let us test stuff. And since no one was using her, they just decided to buff it. And then we realized how broken she is, because everyone started using her. And you will see, Shizuka is gonna get nerfed to a point where she is worse than she was on release, and people will still use her. So yeah, Shizuka definitely needs to be cut down. Josephine, unnecessary buffs that she got made her a little bit over the top. I don't understand why they had to make her like do damage too, or make her easier to build. I don't really get that part. Why do they feel the need to keep buffing this unit? Like, I used this unit a lot before, and she was always fucking amazing. And now she's just way more amazing. So yeah, I think Josephine definitely needs some kind of a nerf. The main part would be adding a cooldown to this skill. I think that's what they will do eventually on Josephine. When they decide to stop buffing her. Who knows, maybe this patch we get another Josephine buff before the actual nerfing starts. But yeah, we'll see. Definitely needs to be touched a little bit. Abilio. You guys know, I mean, no cooldown on this is absolutely broken. No unit should be having this kind of a skill, if we're being completely honest, without the cooldown. Yeah. Add some kind of cooldown maybe. That's pretty legit. Water, Manon. I like right now when I talk about Manon, I'm not talking about RTA that much. I don't think she's that good in RTA. She can be devastating, but when I talk about Manon, I'm talking mostly about Siege. I'm talking about arena defense. Yeah, it's pretty unfair. It's pretty unfair in Arena and Siege. Because you guys know Arena and Siege have rigged rates. So you will see her sometimes move 6 times, 7 times per turn. Because she can reset the proc chance with this. So it is just completely broken. Because of those rigged Siege rates, but yeah. Definitely needs something, right? It's either like remove the block completely, just make her revenge, remove the block completely, or remove the revenge completely, just let her block, because it's just unnecessary to do so much in one passive. And this is mostly, again, Siege and Arena. I've heard some people say Miles needs a nerf on his damage. I might agree with that he needs to be toned down a little bit. Dominic got nerfed as well, and it's a very similar kind of unit, except Miles is a much faster unit, a much tankier unit, a much easier to build unit, and he still does pretty insane damage, right? While also being able to CC pretty reliably. Maybe a small damage nerf. That's all I would say. Maybe a small damage nerf. And then I guess I've heard a lot of people talk about more as well. I don't really know what would you nerf with more. Maybe one more cooldown on the passive. That's the same kind of treatment as Josephine. But yeah, it could happen. It couldn't happen. It's whatever, honestly. When it comes to more, you don't really see it as much as Josephine. Like the passive really impacting the game. But it's still pretty good. Still pretty good. If they put one up cooldown, I wouldn't be mad about it. But yeah. That's kind of it for water. I think that's it for water for now. And then we got some wind units. Oliver. Do I need to even come to us? Does not seem to understand what the problem is with Oliver. Even though we said this a million times. Okay, you can see every single, like, whoever made a video about balancing, about Oliver, what needs to be changed. Most people who actually know what they're talking about were hitting that speed lead, that it needs to be cut down in some way. Okay, I know the skills are pretty cool, but he's not super consistent at these skills. He misses one thing, you lose your whole you lose your momentum completely, right? It's very, very punishable if you miss one thing on these skills. The main thing that carries Oliver as a unit is the leader skill. Cut it down in some way, remove it, bring it down to 24. I don't know, do something about the lead. I'm tired of talking about Oliver. I'm just tired of seeing him. I'm tired of using him. I'm tired of just Comtos not wanting to hear about the actual problem of this unit. Even though everyone is screaming about it for a long time now. I'm really just tired of talking about it. You know, like, I really hope they would just understand the problem, you know? Like, even if they remove the 33, bring back his old skills the way it was before. Just remove the 33. Like, if that's what it takes for you to remove the 33, bring back his old skills. The skills don't matter. As long as the 33 is gone, like, then it's gonna be much more balanced, you know, because then it doesn't just discourage people from playing turn 1. If I first pick Oliver, no one is ever going to play turn 1 against me, ever. Everyone is gonna hard pivot turn 2, and that's it. There's only one playstyle that your opponent is going to play if they're fighting a Oliver. It's very, very annoying. Please come to us. Listen once in your life. Gyo. Like, I've seen people talk about Gyo a lot, that she needs a nerf. I hate her. I honestly hate her, but I think Gyo gets carried a lot by despair. If you don't stun, Like, I tried using her. I tried playing like a turn 2 team in Goodwill a lot. Like, I tried doing some testing and shit. And a lot of times when she doesn't deliver the stuns, she sucks. End of story. Like, you can deal with Karma. Karma is a very strong skill, but you can deal with it if she doesn't, like, go crazy with the stuns. You know, it's very possible to deal with it. You know? Yeah, she is pretty annoying though. She is created to be annoying. You know? That's her whole point. Chompong definitely needs a nerf as well on the skill 3. I've been talking about this for such a long time. I still don't have Chompong. I really want him. But I think this could go down to 50 easily. I don't know why it's still not nerfed. But the main argument was like, if you nerf turn 1 units, nerf turn 2 units as well. If you're nerfing turn 2 units, nerf turn 1 units as well. You know? You can't just nerf one and then the other one is going to be super overpowering again. You know, you need to nerf both accordingly so it can be balanced, right? The whole point of this video, me talking to you guys about these things, is I want the game to be more balanced, right? I don't like when the game is overfilled with power crept units, you know? Because what that creates is just desire to only pull those units and only use those units, and it's limiting RTA to this one box of units that people will always use and that you will always see, right? RTA back in the day was way more enjoyable because people were using different stuff. People weren't really gate kept behind not having certain units, right? Because there weren't as many power crept units. Yeah, there were some, but you could still deal with them in a way. You know, even when drafting something that's not really super popular, right? Right now, RTA is all about, do you have units that you need to have to be able to fight some people, you know? To fight a Juno, you need certain units, you know? You need a certain pool. To fight a Chompong, you need a certain pool. It's very frustrating for the game to be so, you know, limiting. It's supposed to be very versatile because we have so many units in the game, but most of those units in the game we can't really use either because of how limited we are. Leo, I'm not even gonna talk about it. I talk about it all the time. Leo is Leo, right? I mentioned it a million times why Leo is one of the best units in the game. Kills your runes. GG. Right? Etna, another unit that gets buffed every patch for no reason. Definitely overtuned a little bit. I don't know why she got the previous buff on the skill 2. I think that was unnecessary. They could revert that easily. And she would be fine, because she was fine before that buff. I don't know. They definitely need to, you know, just chill out on Etna. And that's kind of it on Wind, right? That's kind of it on Wind. There's not too many units that really need, like, crazy nerfs. There's not too many, honestly. There's a couple that really just make the game, you know, not really enjoyable if you don't have them, right? If you can't use them, and when you have to fight them, you only fight them, right? You only fight certain units, you only see certain units. And then Light Dark. Light Dark is tough. Light Dark is very tough. There are some units that just seem very, very strong. And that's like Tianlang. It's like Veronica's pretty strong. Of course, Celia is broken. You know, like it definitely needs to lose these dots, because these dots do too much, okay? Just too damn much. And then we have the classic ragdoll talk that everyone talks about. Maxie's there, of course. But honestly, I feel like, yes, LDs are very, very powerful. But I still feel like if we could nerf some of these elemental units, we would get a much more balanced game. You know, I feel like they are more of a priority at the moment. You know, because we know Comptos is not going to do like a big nerf patch, right? They don't really do that. They're going to do like 2 units maybe, nerf, and then the rest is going to be buffs. So I just want him to like hit up some of these important elemental units first, because they're the most used and most attainable, right? Volantis, forgot to mention him. But yeah, I don't really think they will touch LDs. Like, I don't think they will nerf any LDs, if I'm being completely honest. My expectations, as I said, I don't really expect anything. But that's kind of what I think needs to be changed in Summer's War at the moment. Let me know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think needs changes? What do you want nerfed? This is mostly just nerfs, okay? Like, if I made a buff, I might make a buff video as well, but that's gonna be a lot more units. But again, as I said, nerfing units will bring a lot of other units to gameplay, into gameplay, right? A lot more units will get an opportunity to be drafted if you nerf some stuff that really needs it, you know? I think that's a better way to buff units. It's to nerf some other overpowered stuff. But we know there's going to be a lot of buffs though. Just I hope they're going to be important. But yeah, that's about it. Again, let me know what you think. What do you want nerfed? You can say as well about buffs. You can comment about buffs. All suggestions are welcomed, okay? But yeah, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, sub to the channel. See you in the next one. Peace out.